Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Belle again. So today, we're going to talk about the GOP realizing the math doesn't math and how they plan on tricking their base with some financial sleight of hand so their base isn't upset by them adding trillions to the national debt. Okay, so before we get to the financial and definition wizardry, let's go over the state of play. Congress is back from their recess, and Republicans are now focusing on trying to use the budget reconciliation process to pass Trump's agenda. If you remember, the original plan was to get it done by their Easter break. So they have to move quickly. But as Senator Thom Tillis said, quote, "How can we be moving quickly when some of those foundational questions haven't been settled?" Some is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that quote. The reality is that pretty much every thorny issue in the whole package remains undecided. And by undecided, I really mean different factions of Republicans have decided on doing it differently, in contradictory ways. Even the timeline is openly debated. While the House wants it done by Easter, Senate Finance Chair Crapo said, quote, "I'd like to have done it yesterday, but really, I just don't find it helpful to set timelines." In the Senate, the biggest issue is that it seems like they're better at math. They don't actually believe their Republican colleagues in the House can come up with the $2 trillion in cuts over 10 years. The Senate wants to see a bill. The House wants the Senate to give them a fiscal outline before they even draft a bill. These are relatively minor issues compared to things like actually voting to cut Medicaid or figure out how to pay for Trump's tax cuts. And that's where the trick comes in. The One Big Beautiful Bill reconciliation package starts off $4.6 trillion in the hole because of Trump's tax cuts that primarily benefit the wealthy. That's the reason they need to cut services to those in need. But morality aside, the math remains. $4.6 trillion over 10 years, according to the Congressional Budget Office. To be clear, this doesn't include Trump's recent tax promises about overtime or tips. So what's the plan? They floated just changing definitions and terminology. The traditional method of figuring out the debt impact would be to use, quote, current law baseline. They want to change that to current policy baseline. That way, extending the tax cuts counts as $0. It still adds $4.6 trillion to the national debt, but they get to pretend like it doesn't. They can go to their base and say, no, it doesn't add anything to the debt. I know the education system is straining, but I believe their base is smart enough to understand that if a tax cut is $0, then nobody got their taxes cut. But the reality is it will cost $4.6 trillion over 10 years, according to the Congressional Budget Office. If they go this route, the fiscal hawks aren't very hawky, and the run America like a business crowd isn't very businessy. Republicans have disrupted the lives of hundreds of thousands of people with cuts because they supposedly care about the debt. But they're going to change the way things are counted so $4.6 trillion gets added and you don't notice. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.